Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day. Our great friend James O'Keefe joining us from Project Veritas. Talk about his new book, American Pravda. James, good to have you with us.
Great to be with you today.
You know, I feel like an old soul. What about you? How old do you feel when we go back to what made you famous, taking down Acorn? Does that seem like decades ago to you?
Well, it does seem like a different life, but it's all part of a sort of evolution, learning lessons. You know, it's part of a journey. We're on a journey here at Project Veritas, and I think society is also on a journey. A lot of things have changed since our Acorn investigation. It's a lot harder to shame targets, and our country has become more polarized.
Well, let me ask you this, sir, here at KIDO Talk Radio. Do you ever say, why do I continue to fight for justice, considering the left tries to take you out all the time, even trying to get you put in jail?
I do. I think about that a lot. I was thinking about that this morning, actually. I think about whether our efforts are futile, right? Whether there's a sort of futility to all this. I mean, we're all dead in the long run, right? I mean, why spend all of your time? The founding fathers never envisioned a country where so many people were focused on politics. But I think that it affects us. I think we're affected by the world around us, and ultimately there's that little spark inside of you, that little voice that really is inspired to galvanize and to change hearts and minds and to expose things. And ultimately that's what draws us back to doing this type of work. It's not vanity, it's not an interest in getting media coverage. It's the desire to expose and inform your fellow man. And ultimately that's what brings me back to it, because truthfully it is hard. It is really difficult to take the attacks, the flack, the abuse, not just from the people who disagree with you, against exposure, but also from your own friends, who sometimes are not really your friends. They're spineless, feckless, moral cowards who are unable to stand up for their own principles.
James O'Keefe with us, Kevin Miller in the morning, talking about his new book, American Pravda, Project Veritas. James, have you ever been afraid when you've gone after the deep state even before we had a name for it?
No, I don't think fear. I think fear is a paralyzing force. In this book, American Pravda, I tell the stories of undercover people who were inside the Hillary campaign. It's sort of a rollicking adventure story on many levels. You know, crossing the border dressed like Osama bin Laden in a costume to show how easy it is to evade border security. We've gotten offered ballots proving the point that dead people can vote. I don't think we're afraid. I think that it's not the physical violence that really concerns us. It's more the lawsuits that we face for exposing the truth. The corporations, the media corporations, are unable to actually do the investigative work because they get sued. What's ironic is that we're a small, tiny little nonprofit organization that's willing to do the work that they're not willing to. So they have too much to lose. They're too big to do investigative journalism, and it's no longer profitable for them to do it. So it requires people sort of make sacrifices and do it themselves, which is what we do, and we do it well. We've done some big videos, most recently on Twitter, undercover inside the organization Twitter in San Francisco, exposing them shadow banning conservative voices and bragging about how they're looking at your private text messages. So the work we do is vital, it's necessary, and it's very risky, but it's important work.
Speaking of which, what's it like when you take a look at just the one-sided journalism that we have today, and, playing off the cover of your book here, the title, American Pravda, it seems as if journalism has just become the arm of the left.
Journalism has had a demise in the last probably 30 to 40 years. It's no longer fact-finding. In fact, journalism has become the covering up of facts. But as ironic as that seems, most recently with this memo controversy, it's all about who is delivering the message and spinning information. And it used to be about facts. It used to be about, even if people had an agenda, the focus was on facts. And as a result of, various forces, postmodernism, the idea that all truth is relative, that it's all about who is saying the fact, not about the fact itself. We live in a world where facts no longer cease to matter. And we find that video, that is to say, undercover video showing imagery, people in their own words, you can interpret the world as you see fit, that's what's going to change things, transfix things in such a way that we get around the problem of the facts being, stubborn things. But throughout history, muckrakers like Upton Sinclair, Nellie Bly feigned insanity in an insane asylum, Geraldo Rivera, Mike Wallace used to ambush people with cameras. Throughout history is replete with investigative journalists who would buck the tide, run contrary to the status quo, and change history. I don't think you can really say that any of those people are around anymore. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But the biggest reason is that when you do this work, you will get attacked. And you have to support the people who do the work. And you have to be an independent force in this country these days. That's what this book, American Pravda, is about. It's about the people who are doing the work and what their lives are like and what that journey looks like and how we tell the truth in the world that doesn't necessarily want to hear it.
James O'Keefe joining us, Project Veritas, American Pravda. James, why should people buy your book? We've talked about what's in it, but is it inspiring? Is it a how-to guide?
Well, it's a how-to guide. It's a treatise on modern media. It's the reader in this book is invited to go undercover with our intrepid journalists. We infiltrate political campaigns. We unmask voter fraud. So on one level, it's a rollicking adventure story, but it also serves as this book will probably be read in journalism schools one day. It serves as a treatise on modern media. The American people need to know how bad the media is. You might think CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and Washington Post are biased. You have no idea. So the number one reason to buy the book is, in the Soviet Union, people knew they were being lied to by their media. It was called Pravda in this country. 40 to 50% of the country believes what they see. They look at CNN and go, "Oh, well, that must be what's happening." So I think you need to be an informed citizen. You need to practice skepticism, but you need to understand why you need to practice skepticism. You need to see the levers behind the scenes. There's one chapter in this book we're going undercover into CNN. And it's not my words, it's their words. So it's not my interpretation of what they said. They say that the Russia story is all hysteria, all BS, just to gather ratings, is what they said. So if you know those things, when you look at the television set, maybe you'll be a little more skeptical, and I think that people need to be informed. Maybe there's some people who don't want to be informed, but we must be informed because our country exists with the consent of the governed. That consent cannot be manufactured. It must be informed.
A return to critical thinking.
A return to critical thinking, yes.
James, what's the key to going undercover?
The key to going undercover is Andrew Carnegie said, winning friends and influencing people. People think of, there's a whole chapter in this book called Practicing Magic, where we describe the art of undercover work. And there are some sources and methods I can't divulge. But it really comes down to cultivating someone, getting to know them, getting to know their hobbies, their likes, their interests, building a relationship with them to the point that they can divulge secret information to you. And you can't put words in people's mouths. We don't entrap people. We're not the government. We don't set people up with drugs, these types of things. We expose really the way it is. And the way to do that is to get them to trust you. And people think of undercover work, they think of James Bond, or they think of fake watches and fancy disguises. And to a certain extent, we do have to use disguises. I have to use disguises because my face is everywhere. But it's more how you behave and the manner in which you conduct yourself. So there's this whole discussion about how we got into this school, and getting into a school these days, like getting into Fort Knox. Especially in New Jersey where we did this. They have security guards everywhere. They have double doors. And getting into the school and using a smile and having a sort of disguise and getting past the gatekeepers. And we reported on this teacher who was doing cocaine and selling cocaine in a health class. And getting in there and barely getting out in time and driving away before the police came. And everyone's grateful that you exposed this undercover tape. But the system attacks you. And how did they get into the school? Well, would you rather us not have gotten the tape? So there's this whole journey in this story in this book about how we collect the information. And it really is an amazing read. It reads like a John Grisham spy novel, but it's fact. Truth is stranger than fiction.
James O'Keefe will get you out on this one. What was it like crossing the border dressed up as Osama?
What was amazing about the crossing of the border is this was in Hudspeth County, Texas, which was about 60 miles southeast of El Paso, Texas, in South Texas. I was trying to be detected by Border Security. I was wearing an Afghani sort of hat. I was wearing a camouflage, which is not exactly camouflage. I mean, I stood out like a sore thumb, and I was dressed like Osama bin Laden. I mean, I was a cartoon character crossing that Rio Grande River, and I climbed through the desert, crawled through the desert all the way to Interstate 10. No border security, no questions asked. In fact, at one point I was walking towards Interstate 10, and I saw a white truck a mile away, and they were driving in the opposite direction. So, and then what the real thing you find out when you do this work is the reaction to your work, and that's we were detained at airports. I was asked by DHS who I'm voting for. They went through my phones. That's the real story. The story is always in the reaction to the action, or as Alinsky would say, the reaction ad infinitum. And that's what this book talks about. It talks about being detained in airports, being arrested by DHS, being interrogated by the federal government, and then they suddenly stopped doing all that stuff when it became public that they were doing it. And people need to understand. It's unbelievable. The violation of my Fourth Amendment rights, basically the raping of our phones, taking our personal data because they didn't think we were journalists. It's all about the reaction to what we did crossing that border, embarrassing those in power. And people need to know that they're doing this stuff. You need to understand how your government works and what it's going to take to solve the problems of this country. Pick up a copy of this book, American Pravda, to be informed.
James O'Keefe, brother, thank you.
Thank you.
And Kevin Miller in the morning, your reaction next. We'll hear from Pro-Life. We'll hear from Basil. We'll hear from you. Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. And 8:20, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Basil in Boise with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Basil.
Miller, I have a question, maybe we call it concern. You just finished talking with Mr. O'Keefe, right?
Yes, sir.
And he has many political enemies in this country, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now, first thing, I have nothing to say about that priest, okay? I'm not going to defend him. I'm not going to say anything about him. But suppose we have political enemies in the government like Mr. O'Keefe has. What prevents them from, let's say, installing malware in his personal computer, which automatically dials up child porn sites, and they just wait for the government to catch him, and the guy says, I didn't do this, and they go, but it's your computer, you logged on, we have all these records, you are therefore liable for horrendous crimes because of the things you have done with your computer. What prevents the government or enemy? Or maybe we go take Dave Ramsey. He is a nice guy, but his enemies consist of MasterCard, Visa, every payday lender, every car finance company. Maybe they would like to get him in jail and very badly discredited with child pornography and other horrendous crimes. This is concerned. How does one defend themselves from such an attack?
Well, Basil, that's been my fear for years, and I've said that to a lot of conservative activists throughout the area and throughout the country, that you blip up too much, they'll get you. And, we've seen that with, that might be that might be too creative. They can just get the FISA court to go after you like they did James Rosen and Donald Trump. But you make a valid point. In fact, there's a new report out today that, you get one of these big fancy new TVs and you got your Netflix, your Hulu in it. Well, apparently the hackers can now change your channels and monitor you in real time. So all of a sudden they could put that stuff on and somebody calls the cops and you have no control over your own TV.
Yes, okay, nice here too. Maybe I should leave you a small joke.
That'd be
majority of my family are legal immigrants. Legal, okay?
Sure.
I was thinking of bumper sticker, but I changed my mind because my car would get scratched, it would get burned to the ground. But I was thinking of nice bumper sticker that would say something like, mis niños son inmigrantes legales. My children are legal immigrants.
Too bad you have to live in fear. You can't put that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. I enjoy your program. Thank you very much, Mr. Miller.
Thank you,
Good
Basil.
day.
God bless.
Okay. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Time for traffic and weather. And we go to pro-life, who joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio.
Yeah, I like James O'Keefe.
Now, by the way, pro-life,
Yeah,
what radio station are you listening to right now?
I'm listening to you.
What radio station is that? What's the name of it?
580 KIDO 107.5.
What's the call letters, pro-life?
What's our call letters?
Uh-huh.
580
No, that's the frequency.
KIDO.
KIDO Talk Radio.
Right. Yeah, I know all of it. I know that.
And you're listening to What's My Name?
Kevin Miller in the morning.
I know, because, you get around.
I do get around.
So I just want everybody to know when they hear pro-life on the radio, they're listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
Right. And but this is the best station. But anyway. Okay. James O'Keefe was talking about being suspicious, and I love that. People are not suspicious enough. And I was just thinking this morning, we hear about so many people getting the flu, so many flu deaths, and you never hear any report because obviously the vaccine companies and the flu shot people that manufacture that stuff, they're not going to ever let a government or anybody say how many of those people that died had already gotten a flu shot, or how many people that have the flu got the flu shot. There's a big manipulation of stuff there. And but you go out and hear somebody crash. I mean, you hear the news about some kind of a crash, and they say whether the person had their seat belts on or if it's a motorcycle, they have their helmet on. But you don't ever hear about people that are sick and dying, whether they got their vaccination, their flu shot, or something. And I'd like to see some statistics on that. But boy, that would be, the lobbyists would just really come against the government if they tried to do that.
So,
and that's obviously what's happening.
So you're saying people are dying from the flu shot?
No, well, people are dying, and medical people are saying they have the flu. Okay. And so do the medical people say, okay, did you get a flu shot? And maybe they're supposed to not even ask them. But anyway, there needs to be statistics kept on that so that they can tell if people who get the flu shot are dying of flu, or people that are dying that didn't get the flu shot. They're not keeping it. If they are keeping statistics, they're not letting any of us out here in the public know. And it's not right. It's crooked. That's what I'm saying. So I'm suspicious, like James O'Keefe.
You are. Maybe you should go undercover.
Yeah, and I think it was his group that they called into Planned Parenthood here in Idaho and said, I think it was 10 or 15,000. We have a gift that we're gonna make a donation to Planned Parenthood, but it can only be earmarked for black people murdering their babies, aborting their babies. And
I don't think it was here in Idaho.
Yeah, it was. They called. I think it was his organization. They called right here to Boise. It was quite a while ago, maybe even before you were here. But anyway, and so the people at Planned Parenthood here says, "Oh yeah, we'd take a donation like that, and we'd earmark it just for black babies." And then I think it was his organization that found out that Planned Parenthood was selling body parts of babies that were aborted. Isn't that right?
Pro-life, thank you for the call.
All right.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, we'll speak with Mayor Tammy, get her thoughts about the growth of Meridian, and big news about Wahoo's. Wahoo's continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's good news for not only Meridian, but the entire Treasure Valley. Do want to thank Senator Hagedorn for joining us, talking about, again, problems that most places in the country, if not the world, would like to have. Just so many people moving here, and the changes, hopefully, that are good that are happening here in the Treasure Valley. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Joined by our friend Mayor Tammy of Meridian. Mayor Tammy, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. It's great to be on with you this morning.
Great to have you with us. So the state of the city, for those of us that didn't catch it, what's the future look like for Meridian as well as the entire Treasure Valley?
Well, we're excited that our economy continues to thrive and with our job number growth this last year and seeing jobs created all over our community. That's very exciting.
Indeed. Of course, the big news coming out of that is Wahoo's is going to increase its footprint. In addition to that, offering, some more new features. How does that impact Meridian?
Well, Roaring Springs Wahoo's has really created a destination point for Meridian on a national scope. They're a nationally recognized attraction. I think that the improvements they have to the kiddie pool with their Barefoot Bay, 3 new slides and 20 play elements. But most exciting, I think, to those of us on the west side of Ada County that have looked for meeting space or conference space or places to do a reception, it's exciting news to hear they're developing their 200-seat conference center into a 600-seat one. It's long needed and very exciting news.
Well, indeed. And when we take a look at Meridian, how, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, but, just managing the growth day in and day out has to be a challenge, whether it's the schools or the roads or the businesses.
Well, certainly growth, schools, and roads have been an area that our citizens have asked us to focus on. And we've been growing per our comprehensive plan. We are in the midst of starting to kick off an update to that plan. It's an 18-month process, but what we found is a lot of people that lived in Meridian at the time of 2002 when we adopted our last one and updated it in 2006, they live here, but we have a lot of new faces that have joined us, and they haven't participated in something like that. So we do hope that the public really engages in this comprehensive plan update and helps us to plan the Meridian of tomorrow.
How important is wage growth for folks living not only in Meridian but the entire Treasure Valley?
Wage growth is of course, something that is one of our measurables. And in the highest growing sector of healthcare that we had this last year, they also saw wage growth of about 4,256, 4,200 plus. And that was good news in that sector. So wages are increasing. I think some of the national policies have really helped with some of that. And I think the future is bright. We just hope that as we continue to grow as a valley, because Meridian, as the center of the valley, we host everyone's cars in addition to our own, that the infrastructure that the state provides and certainly the funding that the state provides for our schools is also reinvested into this growing, prosperous area by the state.
Well, and that is the challenge. I mean, look at what happened on Eagle Road there the other day.
Well, those things are certainly going to happen. That pipe was installed in 1984, and unfortunately, those things with underground infrastructure will happen. We've appreciated the response from the public. It has certainly been an inconvenience, and that's an understatement. But
Indeed.
the understanding of the public has been great. But I think that is a great illustration of we need to keep up. We need to continue to plan for the worst and hope for the better, and certainly plan for the long term.
Well, part of that, of course, is the entire growth of the West Ada school system, the refurbished Meridian High School. People are very proud of that, and that is a challenge. Very few people in the country, and it's been nationally recognized, the growth going on in Meridian and throughout the Treasure Valley, but particularly Meridian when we're talking about building schools and moving kids and doing that all within the budget that the state provides.
That's true, and it's kind of now this is probably going to get some people's the hair on the back of their neck rise, but you know, I find it a little bit disingenuous to have the state talking about a tax cut, and then every local school district across the state looking to pass supplemental levies because they're supplementing a funding gap that the state isn't funding for the education of our kids and their futures. And we have infrastructure that needs to be repaired and or expanded. Look at Chinden Road. We have needs in this state that need to be done now rather than later.
I would agree with you on that, particularly Chinden Road and others.
And right now, Kevin, they can't do a property tax to close that gap. I mean, if we want local solutions, the only tool we have is our property taxes, and no one likes that.
No, no, they don't. That's all we can do is really laugh about it, and then and you're stuck holding the bag. Our great friend Mayor Tammy joining us from Meridian. Hey, let's talk about the village at Meridian. Hard to believe what a huge economic and touristy and recreational magnet that's become.
Oh, certainly that is a destination as well. My husband and I just had a date night out there last weekend, and it was magical. They added 3 new office tenants with 80 jobs, and they plan to double that over this coming year. And I think that one of the things that they're bringing on this next year by Brighton Corporation is a first of its kind in Meridian. It's an active adult residential component. Going to overlook our premier park, Kleiner Park, with a great view on the foothills. That's going to be a $40 million project, and they're really excited about moving that forward.
Mayor Tammy, anything else you'd like to share with us today? We sure appreciate you joining us.
Well, Kevin, we have so many exciting things. We do have the speech on our website. We have the beginning of Meridian's largest park in the south part of our city that will be kicking off this next year. Of course, it's the first phase of many, and so it will take a number of years to build out, but it's a 77-acre park off of Lake Hazel. Excited to get that going, and of course the Hill Project that has Hillsdale Park, has Hillsdale Elementary, it will have a YMCA, a St. Luke's Health Center. That's going to be doing its ribbon cutting on May 25th. So just a lot going on. It's exciting times for Meridian.
Indeed. I wish I could move back. I'm going to work on that with Mrs. Miller.
Well, yes. If you need some help, let's have coffee. We'll chat.
I'll see you at the 10-mile Albertsons.
Okay. That's our regular hanging out spot, right?
It is.
Well, it was nice talking to you, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me on this morning.
Well, you always bring joy to our cynical hearts here, and thank you for all the great charitable work that you do, especially for our friends at the Boise Rescue Mission, and we always appreciate your support.
Oh, they're awesome. They do great work, and I appreciate your support of them as well.
Maybe I can get you to. Well, no, I wouldn't ask you to dress up as a turkey. I think we've got that gig figured out. But.
Yeah, I'd rather just give you my frozen ones.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Kevin. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There we have it. The mayor of the city of Meridian, Mayor Tammy, joining us here. Phone number is 580-5436. 580-KIDO. We go to Scott in Caldwell with Kevin Miller. Thank you for your patience, Scott. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm a first-time caller, Kevin, and I enjoy listening to you when I can. I was on my walk this morning, and you had Senator Hagedorn on. And did I hear this right? He said the state was paying $6 million a year for a building for the Idaho State Tax Commission.
That was the rent, yes.
That floors me. That just, first of all, $500,000 a month. I don't think people in Midtown Manhattan or Beverly Hills pay that much. And my point is, I'd like to know who owns the building and if there's any cronyism in the state capitol, if somebody knows somebody that's a state rep or a state senator, because I just find that just unacceptable. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, he walked that back a little, Scott, or he walked me back because he explained that it was owned by Morrison Knudsen, and then St. Luke's bought it, and then St. Luke's wanted them out, and they were going to try and build, but that would be, to buy another property, it would be, or to build brand new, it would be $250 per square foot. With the HP property, I think it's $80 per square foot, and then the rent and the leases are supposed to cover just about everything. That's what he said concerning the HP deal. But, and again, we appreciate Senator Hagedorn being on. If it was such a great deal, then the state did a blank poor job of selling it to all of us. And one thing I didn't bring up was what Dr. Ahlquist told us, which was that the state outbid his bid by over $35 million. Now, Senator Hagedorn told me off the air that originally HP wanted $150 million for it. The state got them down to $110. So now we know the entire story, Scott.
Well, I'm just really disappointed. I'm a fourth generation Idaho, and I've been a moderate Republican most of my life. But I'll tell you what, the stuff I'm seeing the last 5-6 years, I'm really getting discouraged in my own party. Thanks for letting me vent, Kevin.
Scott, thanks for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Call in more often. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. From an undisclosed location, Tea Party Bob, publisher of the Gem State Patriot. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Sorry, I wanted to call in earlier, but I was on my way down to a meeting at the legislature, and unfortunately I got down there, and they canceled the meeting, so here I am back home.
They heard that you were coming for them, and they said, nope, we don't want that guy around.
Well, I will say, I wanted to comment on Senator Hagedorn's very disingenuous comment telling us how good the new tax bill is going to be, when in actuality anyone with 3 or more children will more than likely pay more in taxes instead of less in taxes. And when it comes to the grocery tax, which is one of the most regressive, egregious taxes, he claims that the tax credit for families is beneficial. Well, nothing could be farther from the truth. And in fact, the grocery tax takes money from the poorest of the citizens for essential items that they need to feed their families. You want to keep people healthy, you need them to be buying food that's healthy food. Well, with less money, you buy cheaper items. I'd also like to see if his numbers on the HP Center actually pan out. But my bet is that in the end, this is going to be a chain around the neck of the taxpayers. And when we finish refurbishing the building and eliminating the asbestos problem, as far as the costing of the building, I would not take his word for the numbers because I don't believe they're real. I would listen more to Tommy Ahlquist, who is a seasoned developer, that they bid $35 million less and didn't get it. All of this baloney that we get from politicians just drives me nuts. They'll tell you one thing one day, and when it changes the next day, they'll give you another story. It's no different than we ever get here in Idaho. And as far as trying to change things for the better with new people coming into office, let's make sure we vote for the ones that are actually going to look out for the citizens instead of those that are going to help themselves, like Senator Hagedorn and many of the others that are running for higher office.
Well, you could always jump in.
Wouldn't that be interesting? I think I tried that once. Unfortunately, God was not on my side. He did not want me to do that, Dan. So I think I'll stay on your side and just run the newsletter and do whatever I can to help people.
Now, from what I understand, you've been doing some planning for this event on Saturday.
Yeah, we're doing a little bit of planning because we want to make sure that you don't forget it, if you know what I mean.
So you're saying this is a much watched event that people need to attend at Dave & Buster's, right?
Well, I think it'll be a memorable event. I really do. And anybody who doesn't show is probably going to miss a lot of fun.
I know you're colluding with management there. I don't know what you're doing, but from what I understand, it's pretty intense what you're going to provide.
Well, you realize that we've known each other for a little over, almost 5 years now. And the Gem State has been in business for 5 years. So it's kind of a celebration for you. It's a celebration for us. And it's a celebration of our friendship, which goes a lot deeper than the surface. And I think it's time that we thank you for a lot of the things that you've done, being in the position you're in and allowing the people of Idaho to actually speak out and speak their mind, because we don't get that everywhere. Go down to the State House and try and talk before a committee and give them what you want them to hear in 3 minutes. It doesn't really work. I can spend 3 minutes on the air with you, and it seems to get across to people. Down there, nothing seems to get across.
Dilly dilly.
So you are definitely a beneficial person to have around, and I think everybody should acknowledge that fact. Without you, it would be a different place. The Treasure Valley would be a different place.
We'd still have fun, you and me and Max.
Well, there you go. We could always go out to Horseshoe Bend and look at property.
Tea Party Bob, thank you, sir.
Have a great day, Kevin.
Thank you. TheGemStatePatriot.com. Up next, we'll talk more about the HP deal, Mayor Tammy, and vaccines with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. And quickly to Bob in Meridian with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Kevin. I find it kind of disingenuous that Mayor DeWeerd is kind of denigrating the legislature for not paying for her school system. You know, they've got uncontrolled growth out here in Meridian. And case in point, to show you how bad it is, she even said that she wouldn't mind having a sports venue on the most heavily traveled road in Idaho at the corner of Fairview and Eagle Road. And I don't know what they're thinking by even proposing that kind of, idiotic idea. And then on top of that, it's uncontrolled growth out here. They just build schools, build housing units all over the place. And the schools are already packed, and they don't have to take into consideration the roads or the schools when they approve these developments. And I was hoping I could catch her to figure out why she's allowing this to happen. And I guess she wants the whole state to pay for her schools when it should be the people that live here. And,
right.
It's crazy.
Well, something has to be done about the growth, and we've been talking about that for quite some time. It is crazy.
Well, I wish somebody would come to their senses and just take a good look at it.
Well, maybe Governor Otter, when he's giving out all the goodies, should pay for more roads.
Yeah, I've given up on him. Thank you.
Ha! You're not the only one. All right, Bob, thank you. Traffic and weather together. Quickly to Liberal Steve at KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Miller. I just want to rebuttal. I know Right to Life has the right to say whatever he wants, and the guy you got rid of in the evening can spout whatever he wants about herbs and vitamins and all his stuff. But, Kevin, just driving here and blowing 7 off the top of my head that we have destroyed. Smallpox, 5 million a year? Smallpox was taken out. We've eradicated that. Diphtheria, whooping cough, measles, tetanus, hepatitis B, tuberculosis we're still working on. Polio is pretty much totally gone, leaving people crippled or dead for life. Malaria, one vaccine, you can get bit by the skeeter, and malaria kills more people than any other cancers, heart diseases, or anything else in the world. And then it goes on and on. Respiratory infections. So it just really hurts me because there are people out there that, get in that box and fear everything. If you don't want to get a vaccination, don't get it. I've been getting the flu vaccination for as long as they've had it. 1 or 2 times I got deathly sick, but every other time I didn't. and the children out there that aren't getting it, yeah, some people will die. Some people, but the percentage is minute comparing to the millions that we save, Kevin. So I just want to get my 2 cents in. Don't let the nuts send you down the wrong road.
Lori, sorry we didn't get to you. We apologize for that. Ray Amaya, great job. God bless and keep the faith.